Hi. I'm Wisang. I'm a bachelor's mechanical engineering student. I'm in my first year, and this is my friend Marit. Yeah.
Hi, I am Marit. I'm a first year master technical medicine student. So that means I've already been studying here in Enschede for 3.5 years. I'm 21 years old and I'm from the Netherlands.
I'm 19 years old and I'm from Indonesia. Important detail.
So today we're going to talk about the first semester. In one word, how would you describe your first semester as a bachelor student?
My first semester as a bachelor student. One word to describe it would be turbulent.
Okay. Why?
Well, mechanical engineering has got a bit of a, or engineering in general has got a bit of a stereotype going on that you never leave your room, you never do anything outside of studying. And for the first couple of weeks, that's all really what I did. All the students around me, we talked about how it was like we were being run through the gauntlet of mechanical engineering just to see what it was really like. And I guess being run through the gauntlet counts as an experience being turbulent, I would suppose.
But fun?
But fun, definitely fun. I have a lot of stories to tell about my projects. Yeah.
Nice.
And how was it for you, your master's?
Yeah, well, for me, personally, in the technical medicine, I could choose my own track. So that meant I could choose my classes and also optional courses, more specific. I also had some practical classes, for example. So I feel all that together made like I learned a lot. So my word would be educational. Educational. But also very fun.
Also very fun.
Yeah.
No stress at all?
Of course, I think it always goes together a little bit with studying, but mainly.
University is not university without stress, right?
Of course.
Of course. Right. You mentioned choosing your own workload or choosing your own track. What does that exactly mean?
So, where in the bachelor, you have like all your classes together, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there you have to learn a lot about a lot of different topics. So maybe they're a bit more general. Don't go as deep into the material as I do now.
That's true.
And now there are two tracks you can choose from. I'm like in healthcare, technical medicine. So there's one that focuses more on the imaging and one more on the sensors and stimulation. And I chose the one that's imaging. So my classes focus deeper on that and more specific. Also, maybe it goes a bit deeper, so it might be a bit harder sometimes as well. But I think also more interesting because you're really focusing on what you really like. So that's very interesting for me.
Oh, what's the most interesting thing so far? Like anything?
I think what I really like now is that I have some practical classes.
Oh, yeah.
So that means, for example, I learned how to do stitches. I learned how to do injections. So it's very different than what I've used to in the bachelor.
Your bachelor's.
And it's very fun that I'm really doing the practical things right now.
Stitches, so like suturing, I guess.
Yeah, right.
And do you do that on humans or
No.
or on a piece of cloth? Or?
No, don't be worried. No, it's actually a bit weird because we practice on pig legs.
On pig legs?
That's like most close to the real human skin. So it's how you practice it the best way, but it is a bit weird.
Do you just have like pig legs in the technical medicine center?
They
provide you with them.
Yes, yeah. It's a bit weird, but I think the best way to learn it. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I can't say that I've practiced on any living things in mechanical engineering, so that's really interesting.
But for you, like, how is your experience so far? Did you do a lot of nice projects, nice work?
Yeah. So the first module that we had to do for mechanical engineering was it's called Design of a Mechanical Product. And the project this year was to make a sort of bionic arm. Well, not really bionic arm. Well, yeah. Something to measure the strength of your bicep, basically. It had to do this movement, which I guess ties in a bit into your healthcare environment. Yeah.
Really like it.
Yeah, it was really fun. Well, we were all just mere first-year students, just fresh out of whatever we had been before, and just thrown into college, thrown into the workshops. They were really, really fun. I still talk to my first module groups because it was just we bonded over not knowing things and getting to know things. It was really, really nice. And we're just cooped up in there for around 4 hours every day, just working on the project. So it was
pretty intense.
Really, really
and the results?
The results? Oh, really great.
Yeah? Nice.
Yeah, it was a really, really nice project. I think ours especially looked really cool.
Nice. And how about like you just finished your high school, I would think, if you're studying your bachelor's now. Are there any differences for you?
Well, I did finish my high school recently, that's true, but I also did a foundation year before coming to the
Yeah.
University of Twente. And I would say that is closer to what the university is like than anything I learned in my high school because I went to public high school in Indonesia and that was a bit different. But the foundation year itself, there were a couple of things different as well, but
Yeah.
I'll talk about the similarities first. We lived on campus, and we had classes on campus, so we really got to know the environment really well. We really got to know how the Dutch education system is like, and that was really helpful. It like reduced the culture shock, I guess, for new incoming students, international students,
Yeah.
into the University of Twente or just any Dutch institution
Yeah.
in general. Yeah. But classes, in terms of classes, I would say they were very helpful in to sort of grasp the material, especially for an engineer, because
Yeah.
we learned a bit of, on the more technical side, Calculus 1, a bit of Calculus 2 as well. And that was just, I guess, laid the foundations. It's
Yeah.
called a foundation
Yes,
year.
of course.
Laid the foundations of my knowledge to progress onto the university.
So it's nice helping you transition, I would
It
say.
was a very nice transition, but there was also differences, right? Are you familiar with the BSA? Of course you are.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, the BSA, could you sort of give a definition as to what it is?
Yeah, the BSA is like the binding study advice. So in your first year, you have to get a certain amount of credits.
Yeah.
There are like 4 modules, right? You're
Yeah.
now in the 3rd one.
I'm in the third one.
And you have to pass the exams and things of 3 out of the 4 modules to be able to continue with the bachelors. And of course, that sounds quite a lot like a big pressure, right?
Yeah, it was, well, it kind of is, but in my foundation year, we didn't have a BSA, so
Oh, okay.
we just had to pass our classes and show up to classes as well. We just had to pass and show up. There was mandatory attendance, and then we would progress on to the UT, no problems at all. But now, as a first year, we're starting to feel, I guess, a bit of the pressures of having a BSA on top of your classes, on top of everything else. But yeah, as you said, it's more like just a goal that you have to reach, a set amount of credits that you have to obtain to be able to progress on to your second year. But I personally think that the BSA is not really that much of a burden. I guess some people would say that, but you know, I know I did say that it was stressful, but I find that the BSA sort of completes itself as you try to do well, as you try to complete your classes. How was the BSA for you as a Dutch student, actually?
I would say a bit the same. Like personally, it didn't cause much stress for me. Of course, maybe in the beginning, it's a bit bigger pressure, like you're thinking about it a bit more, but as soon as I did my exams and they went well, I think that's disappeared a bit more to the background and I passed it without problems. So for me, it wasn't much of an issue. But I know for some people it really is, and it stresses them a lot more, which I can also understand. Like it sounds like a big thing you have to achieve, but I think if you just try your best and don't worry too much about it, most of the times it will be fine. And so far, it's going good with your BSA points?
Yeah, I would say so as well. I'm definitely on track.
Nice. So no worries.
No worries. Curious, just a small question. Does the BSA only apply to the first year, or do you also have it for your master's as well?
No, I don't have it anymore. So it was really just the first year thing, the first year of the bachelor.
First year of the bachelor's, right. So is there any concern about workload in your master's? Like any additional pressures?
No, I wouldn't say, like, of course, passing your exams, but
Of course.
that's, I think, for every year and for every student always the same. So, no, right now there's not an extra pressure for me or in general in the masters, I would say.
I do have one question, though.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with masters, really? Like, emotionally, the workload, I would assume, is a bit more than a bachelor's, even though you don't have the added stress of having a BSA.
Yeah. So, well, it's a great question. I think, to be honest, the stress is always sometimes there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Probably more in the exams weeks than in other times.
Oh, yeah.
But I would say I am managing. It's hard to say how, but I think a good thing I learned is that, for example, even if you're in a busy exam week, it is important that maybe in the beginning of the week you think of the things you would really like to do that week. Maybe you want to go to a sports session, or you want to eat dinner with friends, or do some other fun activity. And I think if you try to stick to that and really keep that as a goal, you have always something to look forward to.
Look forward to.
Even if you're like in a busy exam week.
Yeah.
And maybe in exam weeks you're not gonna plan 50 activities in the same
Exactly,
week. And going partying in the night, that's maybe more for the other weeks. But if you still have some small things to look forward to, I think that might help pretty well.
Yeah, because I think it's important for anyone to have something to look forward to at the end of the week, right?
Yeah. Like studying is important, but
of course.
it should always be balanced with fun activities.
Work-life balance.
Yeah. How's it for you? Like, do you experience a lot of stress and problems with balancing?
Well, since I'm a first-year bachelor's, I think I'm more trying to learn how to study and learn how to manage my time well. So, but so far, I think I've been doing well. I definitely have time on the weekends. I go out with my friends. I visit the other cities because I'm also an international student, so I kind of have to. Yeah. But yes, I think most first-year students are learning how to manage their time, and we're definitely progressing. We're definitely going to reach a point where we know when to study and when not to study, when to have fun and when not to have fun. But yeah, so far in terms of stress, I would say it's a healthy amount.
Nice. And what's your best way to deal with it? Like, do you have a nice activity or hobby you do?
Oh, something personal, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I do love playing the guitar.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I like doing fun things with my friends or family, or doing some creative projects, I would say, or cooking something new, baking something new.
That's nice, because for me, the guitar, I've been playing the guitar for a while.
Yeah.
And it's like, when I touch the guitar and start playing a couple of songs, it's just like I enter a whole new world, and I stop thinking about the stresses of university for a while.
Cool. Yeah, it's nice that it works for you.
Yeah,
I think really everyone should find something that works for them, right? The guitar that works for you, maybe.
I think something that is outside, that is very separate from your studies. There's nothing wrong with like having a hobby, like coding, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think suturing is a hobby for you.
No. Well, I would say in my what I mean with creative projects, sometimes I try to in the sewing machine make my own. Like bags or clothes or something. But
so
it's a bit related, but that's just by coincidence, I think.
So is sewing, I mean, do the skills from suturing translate over to sewing, or vice versa? I
think the other way around, because I did it for longer than I did the stitches in the university. But I feel it gave me some skills with the hands, so maybe it helped me.
Well, were the pig legs also part of the learning curve experience?
Yes, I would say so. So, talking about you now as a bachelor student, I really remember my first week.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it was super intense. I started with some lectures, and the teacher was like, did the self-studies? Did you read these chapters in the book? Yeah. And we were like, what chapters? What is she talking about? And then, like, it turned out somewhere on Canvas, we could find that we had to do some self-studies, and no one knew about it. And also maybe it said, read these 50 pages in the book. So it really made me pretty overwhelmed, and I really thought, how am I going to manage this? But I think, like, after a week, I also learned how to find things on Canvas. And also, I think the trick is, when they tell you to read, like, 2 chapters, they don't really expect you to understand it that much. But they just want you to prepare a little bit and gonna explain it better in the lectures. But really, I think my first week of the university was pretty overwhelming, but it all was fine and in the end. But this is something you experienced as well?
The first week, well, I think for a lot of faculties, the first week is definitely the most turbulent.
Yes.
Because you're hit with a bunch of lectures, full day lectures, but it's necessary, of course, because then as you get closer to exam week, you have a lot more free time to study. But yes, part of the learning curve, part of the experience was learning how to find things on Canvas.
Exactly, yeah. And you managed now?
Well, I'm still learning. Sometimes I don't know where things are.
It will be fine, I promise.
Yeah, but the first week, it was very, very new, I would assume. I would guess.
Yeah.
Because we were all just fresh from summer vacation, really.
Yeah, right.
And I think our brains were mostly turned off.
Yeah.
But yeah. A lot of classes, a lot of assignments in the first week, and we were all just like, what? How? It's the first week.
Yeah, it seems so overwhelming, but also very soon you will understand everything, and learn the tricks how to deal with
Mhm,
it and how to deal with the differences with high school, because probably that's also one of the reasons why everything seems so new and
Yeah.
different.
There was this new thing we had, a new course. It was called statics, which is the study of rigid bodies and not moving.
Yeah.
So it was the material wasn't new, but the way the lectures were sort of given was very new to us, and there were a lot of lectures. And at first, a lot of the students didn't understand what was going on, right? Because that's the first week for you, the first
Yeah.
couple of weeks. It's
Yeah.
all very, very overwhelming. But I found, and a lot of my other friends also found, that as the weeks went on, we started to realize, oh, it's not that hard. It's just a couple of equations. We just have to plug them in.
Yeah. And you just have to get used to it.
Yeah, you just have to get used to it, exactly. I find that a lot of university studies, especially things like statics, they take a while to sort of marinate in your brain.
Yes, yeah.
And it all starts to make sense a couple of weeks in, right before the exam, thankfully.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so that really sort of eased my mind off of stress a bit. Just before exams, it was all like, oh,
Yeah.
it's all starting to come together like
Yeah.
that.
Usually everything finds its place and
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Like I said, it takes a while to marinate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think we talked about a lot today, right?
Yeah, we really did.
Looking back at everything, is there one thing you would have changed if you would have wanted to know that could maybe help the new students?
Oh, that's a good question. One thing I would have changed in my short time here as a university student, well, it would be to really get to know your professors. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, because they have these sort of things called office hours, and it's really, really helpful to go to them. Going back to statics, I had a really confusing statics problem, and I didn't know how to solve it, so I exhausted all of my resources before going to the professor, which I think you should do anyways. But I went to the professor, and he explained it in just the most simple terms imaginable. It was like a 5-year-old could understand it, and I guess that's the gift with professors,
Great.
right? They're good at teaching, honestly.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, it would be to my advice would be to get to know your professors and to not be afraid of asking questions.
Yeah, very good one.
Yeah. How about you? How would you, with your experience and your knowledge, wisdom, you would call it?
I would say, like, take all the opportunities you get to do fun things, to meet new people. If someone asks you to go somewhere or have a study night or have dinner together or whatever, just say yes and do it. And I think that's a way how you meet a lot of new people, a lot of new friends, especially in the beginning, where it's very important to find people because they will be the friends for the rest of your student life.
That's true.
So I would say, like, take all the opportunities and also enjoy it. The big things, but also the smaller things, the fun things you do with your friends, because time is going very fast.
Yeah.
I'm already in my master's and I feel like I just started here. So I would say just enjoy it and have fun, because
That's a really,
that's a
really
very
good piece of
important part
advice.
of studying as well.
Just take your time, enjoy life.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Marit, it was very nice, really, just talking to you about your master's and me getting to relive the sort of past couple of months. I hope you had a chance to relive your
Yes.
experiences as a
I really
bachelor's
enjoyed
as
it.
well.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you for sitting down here with me and, just talking about university.
Thank you as well for sharing your experiences.
Yeah. And to the listeners out there, whoever's in your first year, if you're in your first year, be sure to enjoy it because it does pass by quickly, as she said. But it's going to be wild, but it's all going to be worth it. Trust her.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.